Hello everyone, welcome to my talk. Do you have an idea for an open source project but thought it would be too daunting or scary to start one? In this presentation I hope to address some of these thoughts. For experienced contributors, this talk may be an amusing walk down memory lane. Now if you notice my slight accent and wonder it's from, it's definitely not a Bostonian accent, but my Dutch seeping through. 24 years after leaving Holland for the US, I guess I'll have to live with it. Today I'll share my experience with my first open source project Reken that I started just over a year ago. After a brief bio, I'll give you a glimpse of what Reken is about and what we'll discuss my experience via the choices and decisions I had to make, the tasks that I have done so far, and what code distribution Reken made available. Since I'm only at the beginning of this journey, we'll go through some of these to-dos that are still remaining. And last, we'll wrap it up with some takeaways. My name is Henry Broek. I'm a software engineer. I have 30+ years of experience in software consulting, development and management. First in Europe and the last 2 decades in the US. The fields I've worked in are business intelligence, data visualizations and web development, which were mainly focused on frameworks. Besides coding, my biggest hobby is cycling. I love long distance riding adventures and I race cyclocross. And as of last year, I'm the creator and developer of Reken. Where did the idea for Reken come from? I have experience with a number of web frameworks, and I also used vanilla JavaScript to build applications. Both had their pros and cons, but I was looking for something in between. With Reken, there's just one JavaScript file, and it will look at a few additional DOM attributes and based on that builds a controller calculating model that keeps the UI up to date. Hence the name Reken, it's the Dutch word for calculate. Reken is a quick download, minified in zip, it's 5K and it requires no additional tooling. Now we'll show a quick demo. On this screen we see an image and a slider. With the slider we will rotate the image. The image rotation is set with the degree value in the Reken data style property. And the degree value gets updated by the data value attribute in the input range control. So let's rotate the image. Also notice that I update the degrees in the sample script. Other Reken features are looping, conditions, REST calls, and more. Now let's talk about my experiences. One of the first things I ran into when open sourcing Reken is all the choices and decisions you have to make. And sometimes the consequences were not immediately clear. When I started prototyping, I had not been thinking about open sourcing at all. But once I made progress, I thought, wow, this could really be something others may benefit from as well. And when I demoed it to some folks, they encouraged me to open source it. With every open source project, you come to a point where you want to put it on the version control. And at that point, decided to host the code on an online Git repository. I researched some that were available, GitHub, Bitbucket, and GitLab, and it seemed that GitHub was the most geared towards sharing code with the world. Then the question of license came up, during the GitHub project setup actually. Since my goal was to make code accessible to everyone, the MIT license seems the most appropriate. For version numbering, I used the Memfar scheme, and as I was used to it from other projects. Reken is currently at 0.42 and had 10 releases so far. In past projects, we collaborated using pull requests for code reviews, and I initially started doing that too, but it turned out to be just overhead. And for now, I just push directly into main. Branches I have used occasionally, but also seem overhead at the moment. Once I submitted my initial push of the code, I realized it would only be the beginning. as a user of open source projects, there are all these expectations that go beyond just the runtime code. Tests, demos, doc. You need a test suite. Even though I already had a test suite, I actually forgot to include it in my first push. Oops. I'm a visual learner, so for me demos are very important. And from very early on, I had a suite of demos and also a REPL to play with Reken. Documentation is not my favorite area, although getting better at it. I used GitHub's built-in README, where you can write your documentation in Markdown. Code documentation is probably the opposite of a superpower for me. For the longest time, I stayed away from GitHub Actions and GitHub Pages. It was not clear how invoking these features would be affecting the repository and what kind of clutter it would create. At the moment, I use Actions to minimize and zip the JavaScript code, and I also generate the documentation for the homepage. In the end, I did not use GitHub Pages for the Reken homepage, but hosted on DigitalOcean with an automatic push when there's a repository update. Reken now has its own domain, reken.dev, and it hosts the code, live demos, REPL, and documentation. To distribute the code, I use the standard GitHub clone feature, where one can download a zip or do a git pull of the repo. I also made a download available on the Reken dev website. And at some point, I ran across a service called jsdeliver.net. It makes GitHub repo files available via links, and it even serves version files. This allows folks to start using Reken by just adding a link to their webpage. No download needed. Here are new experience I know I will need to have. So far, the Reken repo has been crickets, or heard crickets. The chance of organic discovery of that one repo in over 1 million repos is very small. So here are some things I will need to spend some time on. Marketing. Well, this talk is part of that. A little bit out of my comfort zone. Also, we'll need to set up some kind of support channel for questions folks may have. Currently thinking of a Discord channel, and with that channel I also hope to build a community around Reken, and on the longer term, hope to collaborate with other contributors on Reken or related functionality. Here's some takeaways from a rookie open source developer. Take your time to validate your code. After a year, I finally feel there's a critical mass of functionality and stability. Besides writing tests, I also validated by coding various use cases. With that, I discovered a slew of bugs and gaps in functionality. Don't let all these choices and decisions paralyze you. Make the call, and if needed, revisit. Even your license can be changed. As long as you're the only contributor, skip the overhead of branches and pull request and just merge it into main directly. Just make sure to review your pending changes locally before committing. After more than a year, Reken is still pre-release. During that time, I already had 2 major rewrites that affected API and behavior. And as long as I do not have any serious amount of takers, probably keep it that way. Last takeaway, give yourself time. Don't worry about that first push. Just make sure your code is in source control. You have plenty of time to hone and spruce it up. Not that there were hordes of developers trying to pull it out of my hands. Did I get myself another job? For now, having the fun of writing something what I think is really powerful, cool code and sharing it with the world is worth it. Thank you for taking the time to view my presentation. I hope you were able to take at least 1 or 2 ideas from this talk. And I also want to thank Upstream, Tidelift for the opportunity to present. And I want to thank all the Unsplash photographers for their beautiful photos. Last but not least, if you want to check out Reken, here's some links to get started. The QR code on the right brings you to this presentation. You can then access these links to the Reken repo, homepage, and my blog. Oh, and by the way, these slides were made with Reken. Thank you.